Hi students, in this video we are going to learn about exchange of gases. The exchange of gases, the primary site is alveoli. The uptake of oxygen and release of carbon dioxide occurs between the blood and the tissues by simple diffusion, which is driven by partial pressure gradient of oxygen and carbon dioxide. So what do you mean by partial pressure? Partial pressure is nothing but the pressure contributed by an individual gas in a mixture of gases. That means the pressure contributed by an individual gas which is found in the air. That is called as partial pressure. The partial pressure is represented by PO2 in the case of oxygen, and the partial pressure of carbon dioxide is represented as PCO2. Due to this pressure gradient, oxygen from the alveoli enters into the blood and reaches the tissues, and carbon dioxide enters into the blood from the tissue and reaches the alveoli for elimination. See this picture? So this is a alveoli. So in the case of alveoli, so it possesses inspired air. So in the inspired air, the partial pressure of oxygen is high when compared to carbon dioxide. So easily the oxygen diffused into the blood, and thus through blood the oxygen is carried to different parts of the body, that means to the tissues. So in the tissue, the carbon dioxide, the partial pressure of carbon dioxide is higher than that of the oxygen pressure. The carbon dioxide diffused into the blood and the oxygen diffused into the tissues, and the blood is carried to the alveoli through veins to release the carbon dioxide, to expel the carbon dioxide out. So in the alveoli the carbon dioxide pressure is less, that is the partial carbon dioxide pressure is less, so when compared to the venous blood. So carbon dioxide easily diffused into the alveoli and it is expelled out. Next we are going to see about hemoglobin. Hemoglobin is a conjugated protein. Conjugated proteins are nothing but the protein substance, the protein which is associated with some non-protein substances. So such proteins are called as conjugated protein. Here this hemoglobin consists of 4% of iron containing pigment portion, and the remaining 96% consist of colorless protein which are histone class protein, that is called as globin, and the molecular weight of hemoglobin is about 68,000, and the hemoglobin contains 4 atoms of iron, and each iron can combine with a molecule of oxygen. Thus a single hemoglobin can carry 4 molecules of oxygen. So next we are going to see about methemoglobin. Actually in the normal hemoglobin, the heme portion contains ferrous state. The iron in the heme portion is in ferrous state. But in the case of methemoglobin, the iron component in the heme portion is in ferric state. So such hemoglobin is called as methemoglobin, and usually this methemoglobin does not bind with oxygen. Normally RBC contains less than 1% of methemoglobin. So next we are going to see about transport of gases. Here first we are going to learn about transport of oxygen, how oxygen is transported from alveoli to the tissues. So the molecular oxygen is carried in blood in 2 ways. So first one is they bound to hemoglobin within the RBC, and the second way is in the form of dissolved form in plasma. Usually only 3% of oxygen is transported in the dissolved form because oxygen is poorly dissolved in water. But 97% of oxygen binds with hemoglobin in a reversible manner to form oxyhemoglobin. The rate of binding of hemoglobin with the oxygen is regulated by partial oxygen pressure, and each hemoglobin carries 4 molecules of oxygen. What are the conditions that favors the oxygen binding with the hemoglobin and dissociation of oxygen with the hemoglobin? So let us see in the case of alveoli. Okay, the alveoli possess high partial oxygen pressure and low partial carbon dioxide pressure, and also it possesses low temperature and less hydrogen ion concentration. This favors the formation of oxyhemoglobin. But in the case of tissues, exactly the reverse condition is that thereby the oxygen dissociate from the hemoglobin. So in the case of tissues, the partial oxygen pressure is low and the partial carbon dioxide pressure is high, and temperature is also very high, and there will be high hydrogen ion concentration. Thereby it favors the dissociation of oxygen from the oxyhemoglobin. Thus the blood leaves the oxygen in the tissues for metabolic activities. Here we are going to see about oxygen dissociation curve. When the oxygen dissociation is high, when it is low, and when the oxygen under what condition the oxygen combine with hemoglobin in higher rate. So that will be measured with the help of oxygen dissociation curve. So here the curve is drawn against the partial pressure of oxygen and the oxyhemoglobin formation. When the partial oxygen pressure is high and the temperature is low, and there will be decrease in hydrogen ion concentration and high and low carbon dioxide pressure, then the curve will dissociate towards the left side. When there is high carbon dioxide pressure and increase in temperature and increase in hydrogen ion concentration, the curve will shift towards the right side. So at the normal condition, this S-shaped curve has a steep slope of a partial oxygen value between 10 to 50 mm of mercury, and it becomes flattened after 70, that means between 70 to 100. So this shows that, so when there is an increase in partial oxygen pressure, the rate of formation of oxyhemoglobin also increase. Under normal physiological condition, every 100 ml of oxygenated blood can deliver about 5 ml of oxygen to the tissues. Next we are going to see about transport of carbon dioxide. The blood transports carbon dioxide from the tissue cells to the lungs in three ways. So first one is in the dissolved form in the plasma, through plasma. So about 7 to 10% of carbon dioxide is transported in a dissolved form in the plasma. Then bound to hemoglobin, about 20 to 25% of dissolved carbon dioxide is bound and carried in RBCs, acts as carbaminohemoglobin, HbCO2. So this is also a reversible reaction. And third way is in the form of bicarbonate ions in plasma. So about 70% of carbon dioxide is transported as bicarbonate ions. This formation of bicarbonate ion is influenced by partial carbon dioxide pressure and the degree of hemoglobin oxygenation. So usually RBC contain high concentration of enzyme carbonic anhydrase, whereas there will be very small amount of carbonic anhydrase in the case of plasma. At the tissue, the partial carbon dioxide pressure is high. So due to catabolism, so thereby this carbon dioxide diffuses into the blood and form bicarbonate ion and hydrogen ions. When carbon dioxide is diffused into the RBCs, the carbon dioxide combined with water and it thus forms carbonic acid. So this formation of carbonic acid is catalyzed by carbonic anhydrase enzyme which is present in the RBC. This carbonic acid is unstable. So as soon as it formed, it dissociates into hydrogen ion and bicarbonate ion. This carbonic anhydrase facilitate both the reactions. So carbon dioxide plus water gives carbonic acid. So this carbonic acid is unstable. Again, in the presence of the same enzyme carbonic anhydrase, it gets dissociated into carbon dioxide and water. Similarly, this carbon dioxide and water combine together and form bicarbonate ion and hydrogen ion with the same enzyme carbonic anhydrase. So the bicarbonate ions move quickly from the RBCs into the plasma. So after the formation of bicarbonate ion in the RBC, it quickly moves out of the RBC into the plasma. There, from plasma it carried into the lungs. So at the site of alveoli, here the partial carbon dioxide pressure is low. So the reaction gets reversed. Thereby it leads into the formation of carbon dioxide and water. Thus the carbon dioxide is trapped as bicarbonate ion at the tissue level and it is transported to alveoli and released out as carbon dioxide. And every 100 ml of deoxygenated blood delivers about 4 ml of carbon dioxide to the alveoli for elimination. Okay students, in the next video we can see about regulation of respiration, problems in oxygen transport and disorders of respiratory system. Thank you.